Court will adjourn.
This week, Shrien Dewani walks. And later, we enter one of the most feared buildings in Johannesburg's inner city. This is Checkpoint, and I'm eNCA Mabuse. From the Cape High Court, where on Monday, British businessman Shrien Dewani walked away a free man after 4 years under suspicion of killing his own wife. How did we get here, and who's to blame for the millions spent chasing a suspect based on shaky evidence?
One monkey came from afar to come as alleged to kill the wife here.
Authorities had us all convinced that British businessman Shrien Dewani had chosen to come to our country in November 2010 to rid himself of his brand new bride, Annie. But on Monday, Justice Jeanette Traverso rejected the evidence gathered by the state as insufficient to secure a conviction. She tore into each individual state witness, starting with taxi driver Zola Tongo.
Mr. Tongo, who was the only witness who could link the accused to the conspiracy, gave evidence to the court which is so improbable and contains so many mistakes, lies and inconsistency that one simply cannot know where the lies end and where the truth begins.
In December 2010, Tongo confessed before Judge John Hlophe that he conspired with Shrien Dewani to have his wife killed by faking a hijacking. He pleaded guilty and was given a reduced sentence of 18 years in prison in exchange for his testimony against Shrien. But under cross-examination, his evidence was exposed as unreliable. But perhaps the first flaw in this case was releasing Dewani in 2010, despite suspicions that he could have been involved in his wife's murder. Unlike the police, journalist Dan Newling began probing Dewani immediately after the killing, while he was still in South Africa.
It was just 2 days after it happened that I spoke to him. To me, he struck me as being someone who had endured a horrible incident, and that's as much as I thought. I certainly didn't come away from that interview thinking, wow, maybe he did it. To the extent that when those allegations first rose, I thought, well, that can't be true, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's when I started investigating.
Dewani flew back to England 2 days after his wife's body was found, dumped in Khayelitsha with a bullet wound to the neck. No sooner had he left our shores than the state mounted a multi-million rand effort to get him back. For 4 years, Dewani fought the prosecuting authorities' attempts to have him extradited. His legal counsel argued that his mental health was frail and that he wouldn't get a fair trial in South Africa. Back home, Dewani's so-called co-conspirators were swiftly dealt with through a complicated series of deals in which one received immunity and others reduced sentences in exchange for a version that strengthened the state's case against Dewani. Mziwa Madoda Kwabe, who said he was just the driver of the vehicle in which Annie was killed, got 25 years. Mgeni, who was fingered by the others as the triggerman, refused to cut a deal with the state and insisted on his innocence throughout his trial. Hotel receptionist Monde Mbolombo secured immunity from prosecution after confessing to hooking Tongo up with Kwabe and Mgeni. On Monday, Judge Traverso reversed Mbolombo's plea bargain.
Mr. Mbolombo is a self-confessed liar.
She also questioned Kwabe's version that it was Mgeni who'd shot Annie.
In fact, the state's ballistic expert, Warrant Officer Engelbrecht, conceded that it would not have been possible for Mr. Mgeni to have shot the deceased from the position in which he claimed he was.
Despite suffering from a brain tumor, a condition that often left him visibly exhausted, disorientated and in pain, Mngeni was declared fit to stand trial and handed a life sentence for his alleged involvement. He died in jail after his application for medical parole was denied. It now seems he was convicted on untested evidence.
But still the justice system saw him fit.
In her judgment, Jeanette Traverso acknowledged the public anger and interest in this case.
There are many unanswered questions about what happened on this fateful night. I realize there is strong public opinion that the accused should be placed on his defense. I take note of that. I have heard the plight of the Hindocha family, that they would like answers to the question. I have, however, taken an oath of office to uphold the rule of law and to administer justice without fear, favor, or prejudice. That I cannot do if I permit public opinion to influence my application of the law. Even if the accused should enter the witness stand and is a wholly unsatisfactory witness, I will still be left with a weak state case which cannot, on any basis, pass legal muster.
With these words, she left the NPA with egg on its face once again.
Embarrassed is not the word I would use. I think disappointed, that's the word.
Why is it that you didn't see the discrepancies that the judge highlighted today and that were very clear throughout the trial?
You can't identify them for the simple reason that when you are sitting and consulting with the witnesses, that witness is not under cross-examination. You're not privy to the version of the defense that they will present in court. No one can ever know how the witnesses will fare in court until they are confronted with the questions from the defense and by the court.
Annie's family arrived hopeful and left devastated.
We feel that today the justice system has failed us. The hope that we would get the full story has kept us as a family going, and today that was taken away from us as a family.
The plea bargain mechanism really fell apart. Zola Tongo, the taxi driver who admitted coordinating this thing, was found to be a liar. Why did he get a plea bargain deal? His evidence does not match with practically any of the physical evidence against him.
The nature of a plea bargain is such that once it's granted, you can't then take it back and say, well, because it's been convicted by a court of law, you cannot change decisions willy-nilly on your own as the National Prosecuting Authority.
What happens to Mbolombo? When is he going to be arrested and prosecuted?
Well, the situation is this. We have to make a decision first whether to prosecute him or not. And I think that's where the misunderstanding is. Just because the judge has not granted him the indemnity, it doesn't mean that now the police must go and have him arrested. What it means is that the NPA must make a decision whether to prosecute him or not to prosecute him. And that decision, of course, will be taken in due course.
Shrien has his life back. The Hindocha's nightmare continues. They want to sue Dewani for marrying Annie under false pretense after he confessed to being bisexual during his trial.